Hi, welcome back. It's Miss Molina here. I'm going to read chapters 5 and 6 of our book, Mananaland by Pam Munoz Ryan. Chapter 5. Willow and Max made themselves comfortable in their usual places, Max on the sofa and Willow with a cup of coffee in the overstuffed chair that sagged in all the right places. Lola walked in circles and finally lay on the tiles in front of the fireplace. This time of year, the firebox was cold and the grate cradled only brooms of herbs that Willow had collected. Max caught a whiff of dried rosemary, which always made him think of summertime and storytelling. "You first," said Willow. "Today I was wondering about Rio Bobinado." Max told him his story about the gargantuan serpent with the indecisive spirit creating the chasm that became the Quailing River. Willow nodded. A serpent that could not make up its mind. Perhaps that is why anyone who travels the river's path is plagued with uncertainty and apprehension. "Is that true?" Willow smiled. "It could be. We all face something in life that's a mystery, where no matter which way we look, there is no satisfying answer." Willow shrugged. "But such is the challenge of life. Your story reminds us of that." Max put his hands behind his head, letting the idea settle. He liked that his story could have a double meaning, and one he'd never even considered. Miss Dominguez said that a good story left you wondering. The next time he saw her, if Papa wasn't around, he would tell her this one. Willow held up a finger. "My turn. How about the secret bridge and the guarda barrera? I'll need a little help in the telling. Remind me, how do I begin?" Max smiled. "You know, once upon a time," he prompted. Willow cleared his throat. "Once upon a time, a grandfather told his grandson a true story." Max giggled. "You say that every time." Willow swept an arm toward the window and cleared his throat. "Once upon a time in the north, far away and hidden, there was a secret bridge, which was only discussed in whispers among bridge builders, their descendants, and chosen ones." He held a finger to his lips. "In fact, it still exists, so you must promise never to tell anyone about it." "I promise, Willow." "Before you reach the secret bridge, you must first cross a glorious span with 3 arches. It glows pink in the morning sun, the bridge of 1,000 mallards." "Which makes for a lot of quacking," added Max. "To be sure," said Willow. "After you cross the bridge to the river left. Do you remember what that is?" Max nodded. "If I'm looking downstream, the bank on my left." "Very good. After you cross to river left, you follow the bank north for another hour until the channel grows weary of all its meanderings and loosens into a long ribbon, becoming deep and calm. It is there you will come upon what looks like a dead-end cove, but it's an inlet that leads to a hidden arm of the river," said Max. "That's where the secret bridge is." "Who's telling the story?" said Willow. "But you are right. At the back of what looks like a cove is a bridge that is so overgrown with vines and shrubs that it creates a wall of greenery obscuring anything on the other side. There, a peculiar gatekeeper, a guardabarrera, lives beneath the bridge. She determines who may travel beyond, and because she lives in a cavern, some say she is a troll with gray skin and yellow eyes, warts, and a nose too big for her face. Or a river witch, said Max. "Is she?" Willow smiled. "I will only confirm that she is a creature of great wisdom and intrigue, with a mesmerizing aura. She is a keeper of lost things, a collector of sorts. Her cavern is crowded from ceiling to sod. There you might come to retrieve what you've lost, or deliver something you've found that someone might come looking for one day." Like what? Perhaps you lost something of deep meaning when you were on a picnic on the riverbank, a piece of jewelry or something of sentimental value. Or maybe you've lost your way in life, or cannot find answers to perplexing questions. She can help. Max wondered if the guardabarera knew where his mother was, and if she could help find her so that Max could return the compass. Papa had said she treasured it. He clutched the compass, rubbing the smooth glass with his thumb. But sadly, very few are willing to travel and meet her face to face. Because they're afraid of what she might be, said Max. Yes, but the strong and determined, such as yourself, will find her. Max smiled and sat a little straighter. He was glad Willow presumed such a thing, even if it was only in a made-up story. When you reach the cavern door, you must knock 4 times. She'll call out, "Who stands before me?" And you answer, "A pilgrim true of heart," said Max. And when she opens the door, you will introduce yourself. "I am Maximiliano Feliciano Esteban Cordoba, son of Feliciano Cordoba Jr. and grandson of Feliciano Cordoba Sr." And she will say, prompted Willow, "I am Yadra. Nothing more, nothing less." Willow nodded. If you are very fortunate and are indeed true of heart, she may invite you on a journey upriver where you might, he cupped his fingers, hold tomorrow in the palm of my hand. But how will that help me? Asked Max. Oh, so much might be realized by glimpsing what is yet to come. Wouldn't you want to know if the path you're on is leading to a place you want to go? The knowledge might inspire you to change how you live today. Wouldn't you like answers to the questions that puzzle you? Max nodded. He would like to know if he'd make the football team and where his mother was and if she was ever coming home. He sat up. You've met the guardabarera, right, Willow? Many times, though it had been quite a few years now. Once we even had tea, which she served in a china cup. And I went on the journey. You held tomorrow? Whispered Max. What did it feel like? I suppose it might be different for everyone. For me, one moment it was warm and syrupy, like a cinnamon pastel just from the oven. And the next, cold and smooth, like a rock pulled from the riverbed. Mostly, though, tomorrow was very slippery. As soon as I thought I'd capture it, swoosh, it slid through my fingers and was gone. Was your path leading to the place you wanted to go? Willow nodded. Oh, yes. How did you know where the bridge was? Asked Max. Willow held up a finger, his eyes twinkling. A map, of course. Can I see it? All in good time, Maximiliano. But remember, your father would remind us it is just a story. Then again, he is not here, he smiled. Willow wanted him to believe whether there was a map or not. The clock in the kitchen ticked. Lola snored. Willow slurped a long sip of coffee. Willow, why is Papa so serious? He always thinks the worst is going to happen. Your Papa was once quite light-hearted, said Willow. But now he wears his worries and fears like a cloak. The grown-up world robbed him of a bit of his spirit, and he lost his belief in happy endings. You mean when my mother left? Willow nodded. She stole a piece of his spirit? Asked Max. You could say that. Didn't he look for her? He looks for her everywhere he goes. Max thought of the bridges his father had built all over the country. Were those jobs that sometimes kept him away for weeks at a time just excuses to look for her? Maybe the guardabarera could help him find her. Willow sighed. Yes, well, she would have to want to be found. He stood and patted Max's legs. That's enough for tonight. It's past your bedtime and I need to take Lola out. Now promise me that when you grow up and meet the guardabarera, you'll tell her hello for me. Max smiled and went along with Willow's fantasy. I promise. Good night, Maximiliano. Te quiero. Max's heart swelled. Good night, Willow. I love you too. Before he climbed into bed, he stood in front of the small window in his room and looked up. The world was moonlit, and on the distant cliff top, La Reina Gigante glowed, diminutive and delicate, as if he could reach out and hold her in his hand. Fog wrapped the tower's waist. A trailing mist drifted at her sides. She was a guardian angel with outstretched arms. Max slipped the leather cord with the compass off his neck and carefully set it on the windowsill. Then, like the hidden ones, he prayed to the giant queen for protection and guidance. La Reina, please watch over Papa, Abuelo, my aunties, my uncle, and Lola, and me. Can you please watch over my mother too, wherever she is? Chapter 6. Sunday afternoon, Max left ahead of Papa to meet Chewy at the field. He stopped at the store to buy 2 pieces of leche quemada, which he shoved in the pocket of his shorts for later, when he and Chewy could celebrate their new summer jobs. Max, Chewy jogged toward him. What did your father say? Probably the same as your parents. No, but he said you and I could be his apprentices for the summer. He'll pay us. Max laid out the plan of working on weekdays and going to the secret water hole on the weekend. Chewy hung his head and stared at the ground. What's wrong? Asked Max. I'm going to the clinic. Your parents said yes? He nodded and looked apologetic. I was surprised. They think it's a great opportunity because they never have money for things like that. Gui's going too. Why can't you come? Disappointment smothered Max all over again. You know, Papa, he worries about everything. He said that he and Willow could train me as well as anyone else. That's true, but it won't be the same without you. Can't you convince him to change his mind? Maybe if you tell him my parents said yes. Max shook his head and tried not to cry. Once Papa's mind was set, there was no changing it. He stared up at the white clouds and watched his summer, his friends, and his plans drift away. It's okay, hermano. I promise I'll remember all the fancy drills so we can practice together on weekends. Chewy tried to console him. And we could still go to the water hole. Max nodded and avoided Chewy's eyes. He choked out his words. Do you want to practice? I can't. I only came to tell you Ortiz invited us all to stay at his cousin's tonight and have dinner with the new coach. I have to watch my sisters before I catch the bus. But meet at the Fork on Saturday, 3 o'clock? Sure. Max put his hand in his pocket and felt la leche quemada. Even through the wax paper, he could tell the candy had already flattened and started to crumble. He didn't bother to offer it to Chewy. When Chewy turned to leave, he almost toppled Papa. Nice to see you, Chewy. Ready to chase some balls? Sorry, Senor Cordoba, I can't today. He ran off. Where's he going? Tears stung Max's eyes. You were wrong. His parents said yes to the clinic. They said it was a great opportunity. Gui's parents said yes too. And Chewy and Gui get to have dinner with the new coach tonight. You never let me do anything or go anywhere on my own. Max, when you're older, what does that mean? When will I ever be old enough? In time, I promise. And don't worry about Chewy. Papa held up 2 fingers and pressed them together. You two will always be like brothers. Max frowned. Until he and Gui and Ortiz make the team and I don't. You'll practice. You'll do your best. Then what will be? I know, Papa. What will be, will be. Max hung his head. He dropped the ball and dribbled it out onto the field. He didn't want Papa to see him crying or lecture him to act like a man, especially when he treated him like a baby. He dribbled the ball from one end of the field to the other and back again. Finally, he passed it to Papa. Let's do some drills. You said Ortiz was better at kicking and throwing, so we'll practice throwing. Did you know it can be more accurate than kicking? Max shook his head, grateful Papa didn't mention his red eyes. It's true. Get into the box so I can toss some balls at you. You save the shot, and then immediately bring back your throwing arm. With your non-throwing arm, point down the field to where you want the ball to go. Then use all your strength. Heave it. The top goalies can throw half the length of the field. Afterward, we can practice shooting on goal just in case you want to play forward. Max went through the motions, but his heart wasn't in it. He imagined Chuy, Gui, and Ortiz on the bus every day together, and all the fun they'd have at the clinic making friends with boys from other towns, and how they'd meet Coach Cruz before the tryouts, all without him. Max, called Papa. He was so lost in his misery, he didn't realize Papa had stopped throwing balls. He waved Max forward and put a protective arm around him. Today isn't a good day for concentrating, but I've been thinking about what you asked me yesterday. Max looked up. I could use your help at the ruins tomorrow, but you said it was no place for a boy. You reminded me that you're almost 12, and maybe that is old enough. Really? Max knew Papa was just trying to take the sting away from not going to the clinic. But still, Max would be the first boy ever to cross the gates. It wasn't much, but it was something. Thank you. Papa tousled Max's hair. You might not thank me after you realize what hard work it is.